Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're diving into the Player's Handbook one more time, talking about the monk. The monk has been one of the hottest topics of conversation in D&D ever since its inception in 2014. I mean, it's been around for longer than that, but we're talking 5th edition here. But right out of the gates, they were plagued with subclasses that were unimpressive, with mechanics that didn't scale like we would hope, limited resources, and just a whole vibe of how is it that these monks are even vaguely competitive with the other classes in the game. I mean, classes define how you scale. Sure, you can pick a species, you can pick a background, you can pick all sorts of stuff that makes you strong at level 1, but how is it that you're going to go through the campaign while all your party members are scaling and getting stronger spells, more attacks, more powerful abilities, and you are lagging behind? This was what plagued the monk. Have they addressed this in the new book? Does 2024 have some new stuff for the monk to make it better and stand up with the rest of the classes? We'll get into the details in just a moment. Before we do, though, I'd like to let you know, Relax Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know that you're a supporter. Also, you get early access to my videos. I upload videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload them a day early for members only. If that interests you, you can click the join button. It's just down there next to the subscribe button. I'd love to see you in the comments with your member badges. And if it doesn't interest you, that's totally fine too. Just watching the video at all, liking, subscribing, all that stuff that costs nothing, is a great way to support me, boost me in the algorithm, build the community, and thank you so much for watching my content. I really appreciate the support here on YouTube. So monks, let's talk monks. Level 1, the monk gets quite a few things. First of all, they get a D8 hit die. This is equivalent to a rogue or a cleric in nature. It's not the worst, but considering that monks typically like to be on the front lines, this means they're not really tanky enough to do so. The tough feat is an origin feat now. Dwarves automatically get extra hit points. There are ways to bolster yourself, but those are available to everybody. So the D8 hit die is the second lowest in the game. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for definitely monks probably should have a D10, but I digress. Their saving throws are strength and dexterity. Strength is a niche one, stops you from being moved around sometimes, but dexterity is incredibly common. Dodging effects, having all sorts of, things that you can avoid, the notorious fireball. The dexterity saving throw is a common one and a very important one. I give it 10 out of 10. It's also the most common trap-based saving throw. So if you play a game with a lot of traps, this is handy. Your skills are mid, to say the least. I mean, you've got acrobatics, you've got stealth, you've got, a couple things that can boost you, but you get a list of 6, and you can pick 2 of them. So you're definitely not a skill build. You're not getting a whole lot here to boost your skills. You got something, so I say 7 out of 10. Then come your weapons. In the old book, it was simple and short swords, specifically. Now, it's simple and martial weapons with the light property. So that would be simple and short swords and scimitars. Technically hand crossbows as well, although you can't use your martial arts features with ranged weapons. We'll get to that. Anyway, you've got some options, but most monks are going to grab short swords. You can also grab, quarterstaff. That's a classic monk thing. You're not strapped for options. I say 8 out of 10. You also do get a selection of a tool, any artisan tool or musical instrument. Musical instrument is roleplay only. I don't recommend those unless you really want to be that character. Artisan's tools, though, you've got a lot of choices. Alchemist supplies, leatherworkers, smith, tinker tools. There's options for a lot of things here, and you can make gear using these tools. It's actually much more clearly laid out in the player's handbook how to do so. Heck, you can make acid and alchemist fire with proficiency in alchemist supplies. That's really nice. Antitoxins, The herbalism kit isn't included, so unfortunately you can't make healing potions with a monk baseline. But you also can grab yourself anything you like here and just make your weapons, make armor for other people, make a living this way, or just make gear. Making ladders and poles and buckets and anything like that. Any adventuring gear that you might need while you're out and about. It's fun for roleplay and for utility. And I think there's enough here to say 8 out of 10 for any artisan tool you might want. Armor, monks don't get any proficiencies. No light armor, no leather, no shields, nothing like that. It's just not part of the monk's repertoire. And that's unfortunate, because armor can really come in handy 5 out of 10 for having no armor proficiencies. On the flip side, they do get unarmored defense. This states that their traditional AC, which for most characters, if they're unarmored, is 10 plus their dexterity modifier. Now it is 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your wisdom modifier. So by pumping both your dex and your wisdom, you can actually match that the armor class you would get from light armor and even medium armor. Later in the game, if you really focus on your stats, you can get up to ACs of like heavy armor. Plate armor is an 18, with a shield it's 20. You need to have a 20 in dex and wisdom to match that. But starting with a 16 in each of those stats gives you an armor class of 16, which isn't too bad. That's, standard medium armor level stuff. I'd say 8 out of 10 for that. It's a shame you can't use this with a shield, so no shields for monks at all. Even if you take proficiency with shields using like the lightly armored feat, for example, that's just you're not gonna be able to benefit unarmored defense with a shield. You would just be trading unarmored defense for something else. So 8 out of 10. And then of course the big feature that monks are known for, their martial arts. This allows them, when they are using either their fists, so unarmed strikes, simple weapons, or martial melee weapons with the light property. Remember, we're talking short swords and scimitars here, or whatever melee weapon, daggers, clubs, quarterstaffs, whatever you like from the simple list. You swap out the damage for the monk's damage die, the martial arts die, starting at a d6, so that's equal for, the short swords and scimitars and quarterstaffs. But also, you can use your dexterity to fight with your melee weapons instead of your strength, meaning that you are now leaning into dex and you can leave strength alone, even if the weapon doesn't have the finesse property. So that's cool. But the real feature that we want to see here is the fact that with your unarmed strikes, you can grapple and shove creatures as part of the unarmed strike action using your dex instead of your strength. So now you can ignore strength even if you want to be a grappler build, which is kind of crazy. And finally, the automatic bonus action attack. Right from level 1, a monk can attack with their attack action and bonus action unarmed strike. So they have 2 attacks straight away. This is an incredible feature which bumps a monk's damage even higher than that of a martial weapon wielding fighter, because you can add your dexterity modifier to both attacks. Even the 2-handed weapon fighters might struggle with this if they weaponize their bonus action, considering that those have to be finesse weapons. These don't. So, in all, martial arts buffs your damage, your grappling, your shoving, and your bonus action. All as long as you're just living the monk fantasy of fighting with the weapons and the fists of the monk. I call this 10 out of 10. It's a buff that's going to last you the rest of the game. Speaking of the rest of the game, let's get out of level 1 and into level 2. Now you get the monk's focus. This is the replacement for ki, because ki was the name of the energy that monks use. Now it's just called focus points. You get a number of focus points equal to your monk level, so that's 2 right now. They recharge on a short or long rest, so you just need a short rest to get them back. And you can use them in one of 3 ways. 1, you can spend a focus point to use Flurry of Blows, attacking twice with a bonus action as an unarmed strike. This means that if you're willing to use a focus point and your attack action, you can attack 3 times in a turn, as long as you have a focus point to do it. You also can use Patient Defense. This doesn't require focus. You can just disengage as a bonus action and move. If you do use a focus point in order to get this feature, then you can disengage and dodge as the same bonus action. The dodge feature gives all enemies disadvantage on attacks against you until the start of your next turn, which is great. If you're in a tough spot and you really need to dodge attacks, it might be worth the focus point to do that instead of Flurry of Blows. But you can always disengage for free. And then finally, Step of the Wind lets you dash as a bonus action. This means that you can move twice your movement speed with your bonus action and your movement. If you spend a key point on it, then you can disengage and dash as a bonus action, meaning no opportunity attacks will hit you while you zip around the battlefield, and your jump distance gets doubled if that comes up. So yeah, lots you can use your focus points on. And in the old days, it was just everything costs a key point. You had to use a key point to dodge or to dash and disengage as a bonus action. Now you can do the disengaging and dashing for free. This is a comparison that was often made because at level 2, rogues can do this for free infinitely, and they can hide. Now monks can do it for free, and they can enhance it with their focus points, and that is exactly what it needed to be. You can spend your bonus action in lots of ways, attacking, disengaging, and dashing, for nothing, infinitely. Or you can spend focus to do more than that. Attack twice, dash and disengage, or disengage and dodge. All the good stuff. Love it. 10 out of 10. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for fixing this problem. This means you're not going to be burning through your key points as much just for using your features, or your focus points, sorry. On top of this, you also at level 2 get unarmored movement. As long as you're not wearing armor or carrying a shield, you get a movement boost. Right now, it is a 10-foot boost, meaning that the standard 30-foot movement speed is now 40 feet for a level 2 monk. This, of course, means your dash is going to move you 80 feet in a turn, which is awesome. And this actually scales as you go up in levels. Every few levels, it gets another 5-point boost, and that means that by the end of the game, when you hit level 18, I think it is, you are getting a 30-foot movement boost on top of the 30 feet standard, or faster, if you're faster than that, meaning that your standard movement speed becomes 60, and with the dash, that becomes 120, and that's with no other boosts involved. That's just from being a high-level monk. This is wildly strong. Even at the low levels, this is strong. I'm giving it 10 out of 10, because movement is something that is just kiting enemies, moving around the battlefield, positioning where you need to go, especially since you can disengage as a bonus action for free. It's just fantastic. Then the final thing you get at level 2 is Uncanny Metabolism. This is a new feature. The name isn't new, but it's been reworked. When you roll initiative, you can choose to activate Uncanny Metabolism. Doesn't cost you anything. When you do so, you roll your martial arts die, add your monk level, and regain that number of hit points. So at this level, that's a d6 plus 2. So 5 or 6 hit points that you just get back when you roll initiative. And you regain all your focus points without a short rest or anything. So if you're low on resources, got no focus points, half of your health, and you get into an unexpected fight, just activate this and you're good to go. Again, it's just once per day, but it's definitely something that will scale later on. I mean, think about level 10. Level 10, your martial arts die is a d8, I think. Or is it a d10 by that point? Might be a d10 by that point. In any case, it's higher. And your monk level is 10. So now you're recovering 15-ish, 16-ish hit points when you roll initiative and getting all 10 of your focus points back once per day. Yeah, I mean, you might as well have just taken a short rest at that point, except you didn't need to. I think this is solid. I think this is 9 out of 10. It scales relatively well with the game and is just another way to get your focus points back, and we needed that. So again, thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for giving us more ways to get our focus points back. Now, level 3, everyone gets their subclass, but we're not talking subclasses. Normally, I would skip level 3, but there's actually a feature monks get here too: deflect attacks. This is a replacement for the old deflect missiles, and it works largely the same. When an attack comes in that deals bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, you can use your reaction to lower the damage. 1d10 plus your dex modifier plus your monk level. Assuming you have a 16 dexterity, that means you're getting a d10 plus 5 and knocking the damage of the weapon that's incoming down. This works on ranged and melee, so this is a good way to block a sword or a great club or an arrow or a crossbow bolt. And if you manage to reduce the damage all the way to 0 using this feature, you can then use a focus point. I'm going to do that this whole video, aren't I? You can use a focus point to redirect the attack. If it's a melee attack, it has to be within 5 feet of you. And if it's a ranged attack, it has to be within 60 feet of you and not behind total cover. Creature makes a dexterity saving throw or takes a damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So this literally is a way to, when a person's about to hit you with a sword, to catch the sword, and if you want to use your focus, swing it back at them. This is some judo stuff. This is martial arts, when you are literally pushing enemies' attacks against themselves or against their allies. And it's your reaction. And if you don't have any focus to use, you can still block hits. This is phenomenally strong. And the fact that it has gone from ranged only to ranged and melee is a massive buff for this kind of feature, and I give it 10 out of 10. Then at level 4, you get your feats or your ability score increases, as everyone else does, but you also get an extra feature here: slow fall. When you fall, you can use your reaction and reduce the damage a number equal to 5 times your monk level. You are level 4, so that's 20 hit points of damage that you can reduce fall damage. And considering that you would have to take at least 3d6 of fall damage, that's 30 feet, to even possibly take damage from this. And on average, that is about 6d6 of fall damage that you're reducing. That's a 60-foot fall. So monks can just, in fact, jump off of cliffs or off of rooftops and take no damage. This doesn't even take focus. You can just reaction, slow fall. Easy. Now, of course, when you aren't falling, because falling isn't something that happens very much. I mean, unless you build around it, unless your DM is putting you in towers and on skies, up in the sky or on cliffs or whatever. Like a lot of games, you won't fall once. Like there's no fall damage involved. It's a pretty rare rule. When it does come up, you're going to feel like a superhero. So I'm going to say 7 out of 10 for this. Not strong most of the time. Very strong on the occasion it comes up. Then level 5 comes along, and monks are one of those lucky classes to get extra attack. With the attack action, you now attack twice, meaning that with no focus needed, you can attack 3 times a turn, and if you are using your focus, you can attack 4 times a turn with Flurry of Blows. This means you are attacking twice as often as a fighter, and even if they build around bonus action attacks, they are having to build their entire fighting style around getting extra attacks just to keep up with you. You're doing a lot of damage. Also, your damage die scales here, so now it's a d8 instead of a d6, meaning that you're going to be hitting much harder and more often. So yeah, we're doing good stuff here, and I give extra attack 9 out of 10. You get another thing at level 5 too, the infamous Stunning Strike. When you hit a creature, you can use an extra focus point and force them to make a Constitution save. You can only do this once per turn, unlike the old version, which you could use on any number of strikes. You just had to spend all of your key points. Now you're spending 1 focus point once per turn. So it has been nerfed in the sense that you can't just spam it. But it has been buffed in a different way. If they fail the save, they are stunned, which is a fantastic condition to implement on creatures. They can't do anything, and attacks against them have advantage, and it's really strong. But if they succeed the save, they are still affected. This means that their speed gets reduced by half, and the next attack against them has advantage. So you're granting the next hit against them advantage no matter what. The stunning strike, if it succeeds, just means that they're going to have multiple attacks coming in at advantage. But even if they fail the save, but if they succeed the save, they still got one coming in. You can set yourself up with this, so your first hit goes in, and you're either getting advantage on your next one only or all of the rest of your hits, or you can use it as your last attack, stun. Then, if they still succeed, your paladin, your rogue, someone else who has a really big hit that they can go in with, now has advantage on the next shot. It doesn't have to be you. This is just a good feature with a fail-safe case, and I like that kind of design mentality. Of course, stunning them is the ideal, but it's a con save. Those are tricky to target. I like the fact that now you aren't wasting your focus. One, by spamming it on every single attack. In the old days, you could burn through 5 key points in one turn, flurry of blows, and stun all 4 times, which is silly. Now it's once per turn. I like that. And even if they succeed, even if a creature has legendary resistance, you're still giving someone advantage, no matter what. Fantastic. I give the stunning strike power 9 out of 10. Level 6, you get empowered strikes. This means that your unarmed strikes and attacks with monk weapons can do the regular damage or force damage. This is just a way to get around damage resistances, because basically nothing resists force. So, yeah, good thing now, if you fight enemies that are resistant to bludgeoning damage, your fists can do force damage. Awesome, 9 out of 10. Then comes level 7, and the almighty evasion is here. This is a classic monk and rogue feature where when you make a saving throw that is dexterity based, if you would normally take half damage when you succeed, instead you take no damage, and if you fail, you take half damage. So fireballs, you don't care about those anymore. You're either taking no damage or half damage if you botch the roll. It's just a really good feature defensively. Dexterity saves are relatively common, like I said earlier. And yeah, it's 10 out of 10, definitely. In fact, what I would point out here is that this also would work against another monk. If another monk is deflecting your attack back at you, that's a dex save to avoid the damage. Now, you would take advantage on that, or not advantage, but you would take half damage even if you botch the save. So now when a monk fights another monk, they can evade each other's deflect attacks, which I think is just, that's how you get those epic, long-winded fights when, martial artists are just going at it for several minutes. Anyway, fun ability, very powerful. Level 9, you get acrobatic movement. This says as long as you're not wearing armor or carrying a shield, you can while you're using your movement speed, you can run across liquid surfaces or up walls. Considering the fact that Step of the Wind is granting you dash movement and your unarmored movement is boosting you like 15, maybe even 20 feet by this point, you're going to be able to run up a 100-foot wall in a single turn or across an entire lake. This, again, isn't going to come up all the time. A lot of the time you won't need to run across a liquid surface or up a wall. Also, you don't stick. You have to land on a horizontal surface or, grab onto something if you're going to stop, and if you stop on a liquid, you'll just go into it. But it's still awesome that you can move so fast and that obstacles, such as water or whatever, or a wall, you don't care anymore. This is cool, and it is going to come up more often than, slow fall would, although it pairs well with slow fall, because now you can run up and then just fall and slow fall. Anyway, I think that this is awesome, and I give it 8 out of 10. Level 10, you get heightened focus. Heightened focus is something which empowers your monk's focus. Now, your monk's focus is actually going to scale. Before, Flurry of Blows was Flurry of Blows. You used a key point, you do extra attacks, cool. Now you're doing more. When you hit level 10, if you use a focus point to Flurry of Blows, you're getting 3 unarmed strikes with your bonus action. Meaning that now, with extra attack and Flurry of Blows, that is 5 attacks with just one focus point. Very, very strong. You also can buff your Patient Defense and Step of the Wind. Patient Defense, when you use it, you get temporary hit points equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So, yeah, by this point, that's, like I said, about a d10. And now you're going to be buffing up yourself, not just by dodging and disengaging, but giving yourself temp HP. And you can do this every turn as a bonus action if you're willing to spend the focus points to do it. That's awesome. And finally, when you use Step of the Wind, you can bring another creature with you. A willing creature. You can grab them and take them with you for the entire movement. By this point, like I said, that's close to 100 feet of movement. And it doesn't provoke opportunity attacks for them either. Like, you technically, your bit doesn't say that, but you're disengaging automatically, so whatever. But yeah, you can just go and use the focus point to drag you and an ally 100 feet in one direction or so. It's just the scaling a monk needed. More attacks for more damage, more temp HP for defensive focus, and more maneuverability with Step of the Wind for you and your party. This is 10 out of 10, and it's just level 10. Like, we're doing good. This is a reasonable level to be getting such good features. Then, also at level 10, you get something called Self-Restoration. This is basically, if you start your turn charmed, frightened, or poisoned, you can just stop those. There's no action involved here. There's no bonus action. There's no focus points. You're not immune to these conditions, but if you start your turn with them, you can just turn them back off again. So they're not affecting you in the long term. You just still have to make the save or whatever, and then get to your turn, and then you can stop it. Also, if you don't eat or drink, it doesn't give you exhaustion. So you still have to long rest, but if you have to go without food or water, you don't get exhausted? Does that mean that you just never have to eat or drink? I'm not really sure. I would argue no, but then again, in martial arts, in fictional martial arts stories, a lot of the time they can go for weeks or even months without eating or drinking, just because the power of their ki is like keeping them strong. So maybe you just don't have to eat or drink anymore. There are some species in other books that give you that anyway, but I still think it's nice. It's a nice little ribbon feature, and the Charm Fear Poison thing is just awesome. So I'm giving this 9 out of 10. Then level 13 comes along, and your deflect attacks gets a buff. Already you've been blocking arrows and swords the whole game, ever since level 3. Now you can deflect energy. You can deflect anything. Any damage that comes at you, as long as it's an attack roll, not a saving throw based thing. An Eldritch Blast, a Firebolt, a Scorching Ray, any of those things where you are getting an attack roll against you, you can just deflect them away with your reaction. And if you block the whole thing, imagine the look on a warlock's face when he tries to shoot you with an Eldritch Blast and you just bat it back at him. Like, what? This is insanely strong. And again, no focus required unless you're bouncing it back. To just deflect spell attacks, just your reaction. That's it. 10 out of 10. Definitely 10 out of 10. Level 14 was always a big one for the monk. They got the Diamond Soul feature. Now it's called Disciplined Survivor. It grants you proficiency in all saving throws. You already had strength and dex. Now you've got con, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma proficiency. And if you fail a saving throw, you can use a focus point to re-roll it and use the new roll. So if you botch a roll, you can just roll again. And since you're proficient in all of them, it is unlikely you're going to ever fail a save again. You just always will succeed on saves. So think about this. Already you've got evasion, so you're avoiding most dexterity-based effects. Now you're avoiding most saving throw-based effects with, a focus point and a reroll in case, because you're proficient in everything. But that's saving throw-based effects. What about attacks? You've got deflect energy. It doesn't matter what someone throws at you. Like, I would argue that by level 14, a monk could be tankier than a barbarian by this point. Yeah, they don't have the hit points, but nothing's gonna hit them. Like, the only way you're ever gonna get them is you swarm them and you force them to, like, use their reaction to block something, but then 10 more attacks come in. That's how you kill a monk, is by rushing them. But in just a fight where you're against 2 or 3 enemies, the monk is not gonna get hurt. It's just not gonna happen. I give Discipline Survivor 10 out of 10, obviously, because proficiency in all saves is just bonkers strong, and re-rolling saves is also strong. It's great. Level 15, Perfect Focus. This says that when you roll initiative, assuming you don't use Uncanny Metabolism, because that restores all your focus points, but if you don't use that, you then will gain focus points until you have 4. So if you have 1, you gain 3. If you have 3, you gain 1. If you have 0, you gain 4. Whatever. It's just up to 4. Thank you for making that clear, Wizards of the Coast. Now it's not you have to be at 0 to gain something. No, you gain something as long as you have less than 4. And now you've got some focus points. Enough to reroll a save. Enough to throw out Flurry of Blows or Patient Defense to tank yourself up again. You've got stuff every fight. And if you're in a real pinch, you can still use Uncanny Metabolism to get them all back. But yeah, Perfect Focus, 9 out of 10. Real nice. And 4 is enough. 4 is enough over the course of a fight. Most fights last 3 to 5 rounds. Even in the upper game, they might last a little bit longer, but if you are careful with your focus, you'll get through the fight. Level 18, Superior Defense. This says that for 3 focus points, you can give yourself resistance to all damage other than force damage. So this just makes you, rage without the rage. It only lasts for a minute, but again, that's 10 rounds of combat, so you're going to be fine in basically every fight. And resistance to all damage, I mean, you're already deflecting everything, with deflect energy. You've already got evasion. You're already saving most of the time. But now you also get to add damage resistance. You're level 18. This is an appropriate feature. It's very strong, so 10 out of 10. Finally, level 20 comes along and you get Body and Mind. This is a capstone that is similar to the Barbarian's capstone in the sense that it boosts your stats. Your stats go up by 4, we're talking your dexterity and your wisdom, up to a potential maximum of 25. This is important because epic boons came to level before this and could potentially boost you up to 21 or something like that. So now you've got a potential maximum of 25 dex and wisdom. And even if you didn't boost them with your epic boon, now you're suddenly getting a +2 bonus to all of your dexterity and your wisdom numbers. And yeah, this is a very, very appropriate capstone for a monk because that is what they care about. This is also really nice because if you've made it to level 20, it's possible that you've had to sacrifice some of your stats for feats. Monks like feats. The speedy feat is really, really good for them. There's other ones that are also good. And they may not be at 20 in their wisdom and their dexterity yet. This is going to guarantee that they get there as long as they started with a 16. And yes, it's level 20, so most games don't make it this far. But if you have made it this far, this makes it so that your monk doesn't feel like you've had to sacrifice. You just get it all. So 10 out of 10 for Body and Mind. That was a lot of stuff. The monk is stacked with features, whether it is defense, maneuverability, power, extra attacks, more focus points, resistance or just flat out immunity to charm, fear, and poison, deflecting spells, evading spells. There's so much here, and monks are tougher than ever now, deflecting any attack, including spells at higher levels. Evasion's always been there, but that's awesome. Their unarmored defense isn't stronger, and they don't get more focus points than we used to key, but there's a lot more ways to recharge them. And once you hit level 10, your focus can tank you up even more by giving you temp HP and making you much harder to hit. I don't feel like I need to sell this. I feel like this sells itself. The monk is good now. Is it as good as a fighter or a ranger or a barbarian, or a wizard or sorcerer? I'd say they're pretty close. I'd say that the monk is 9 out of 10. It's not perfect. There's certainly some things it can't do. But considering the amount of mobility, the ways that you can recharge your focus, and all the uses and defensive capabilities you have, I don't think that the monk is bad. I think that they are far better than they used to be. This is arguably the best glow up that any class has seen, and they deserved it. Monks have been, the worst class in D&D for 10 years. Now they're not. And I honestly think that this is exactly what they needed. So thank you once more, Wizards of the Coast, for giving such a cool class concept such a powerful boost. Monks, you're pretty good now. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more class reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.